I am reaching a great milestone this year. I joined my sorority 30 years ago. Yes, that deserves a yes. And I was a sorority president and went on to get a master's degree and a doctorate degree in higher education. I've worked 15 years for a men's national fraternity doing risk management and prevention work. So I had my hands full, learned a lot. I have been speaking across the country around this idea of risk and safety for decades. And I currently work for an insurance group, and we insure 90 men's and women's fraternities and sororities. And I get to head up our educational efforts around safety. And the one thing I have learned in my 30 years of doing this stuff, this is critical, 30 years of work, here's what I'm going to tell you. Sororities and fraternities have problems. We have problems. The other thing I have learned, though, in this work is that at some level, sorority women, we embrace problems. We love to have problems. It just gives us something to do with all of our time. So a sorority woman, like this is how it goes. Like a sorority woman will say to a sorority woman, we have a problem. And a third woman will walk up and go, we have a problem. And immediately everyone's like, we should form a committee. So we go to the next chapter meeting. We spend 3 hours forming the committee. It is a perfect balance of freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and the seniors. And the problem committee, they agree, we're gonna meet, and we are going to come together on a Saturday. They all go to Starbucks before, so we're like $80 into the problem before we even know what the problem is. So we go into this committee meeting of the problem. And we as women, men, if you don't understand this, we love having problems. We love sitting there and talking about the problems, and we talk, and we talk, and we talk, and we talk. And finally someone, usually a courageous sophomore, will kind of be like, I'm sorry, we've been here 2 hours. I don't understand what the problem is. And the senior, you all know who I'm talking about, the senior, the one with like no body fat, and she's beautiful, and she's mean, and she talks like a dragon. She's like, and she starts lashing out, and she's like, the problem is we are not motivated. And everyone's like, okay. And because she has identified that we are not motivated, that becomes the problem. And the thing about women, though, is we don't just stop there. We don't just go, we have a problem. Women have solutions. We love solutions to our made-up problems that aren't really our problems. And immediately a woman says, I have a solution. And she pulls out this piece of paper, and she's like, I have written a bylaw. I'm taking it to chapter next week. And the bylaw says, we are motivated. Yes, we are. And if our women don't pass it by 2/3 vote, we are going to fine them and we're going to punish them. We're going to harm them if they don't pass this. The next woman says, she's like, look, you know what the problem is? The problem is we don't have a motivation t-shirt, and everyone else on campus has a motivation t-shirt. So I'm going to be in charge of the motivation t-shirt, and our t-shirt is going to look different. You know how everyone right now, they have the V-neck? We're going back V-neck. We're going straight out different on this, and it's going to say we are motivated on the front. It's going to say, yes, we are on the back. We're going to cite the bylaw. No one's ever done that. We're going to put our crest right here, and if people don't wear this thing every single Tuesday, whether we are coming or whether we are going, people will see that we are motivated. If they don't wear it, we're going to fine them, and we're going to punish them. We don't care if it's raining. We don't care if it's cold. Wear the t-shirt. And the next woman says, I'm going to be in charge of social media, because that's the problem. People in North Dakota do not know that we are motivated down here in the South. That is the problem. And it's always that woman. We all have them, sororities and fraternities. That guy who's like, I'm going to save the frat. It's like, dude, save yourself. Like, you have a .08. And I'm talking about your BAC and your GPA. Like, you need to like save yourself. But we all have those men and women who want to save the sorority or save the fraternity. And this woman decides that she's going to drop out of school, and you're like, you already are. And she comes up with a 12-page social media plan for us. It comes to chapter meeting, and again, presents this plan as like, we don't care if you're motivated, just hashtag look motivated, hashtag do this on your Insta and your Finsta. Like, we need everything to look motivated. And if you're not, we're gonna hashtag fine and punish you, hashtag Twitter. And that's how you're gonna know that you're fined and punished. And the last woman says, look, I'm gonna be in charge of the secret campaign, like the secret committee, the secret motivation committee, and no one's gonna know about it. And what's gonna happen is we're just gonna walk around and look to see if you look motivated. We're just gonna look to see if you're doing the international smile of motivation. And if you don't look like this all the time, again, we don't care how you're feeling. We just need you to smile. And if you don't, we're gonna fine you and punish you. And when you say to the treasurer, why did you fine and punish me? We're going straight up passive aggressive. We're like, search within your soul. Jesus loves you. All right. And we as women spend volumes of times in women's organizations, including sororities, thinking that we're actually fixing something, when in reality, I don't think it has anything to do with motivating anybody. Now, men, you have problems. 15 years working for a men's fraternity, you got some problems. And so here's what happens though in the men's world, and I do love the men's world, it's so much easier. A fraternity man will say to a fraternity man, dude, we got some huge problems. Like, we got some huge problems. The guy's like, no shit. All right, you have a good day. All right, you too. That's it. That is the entire end of the problem. Now, the reality is, everything we laugh to, if some of this feels familiar, it's not really the real problems that are out there. So I want to take some time today to really start looking quickly into this idea of what's the problem. We know in the strategic planning world, the basic level of strategic planning is that an accurate description of the problem is 90% of the solution. So if you are sitting in your chapter meetings and small groups and large groups talking about all these problems that sit on the surface level, my challenge to you is to really start digging under that to try to understand what's accurately going on. And when I think about what's the problem in sorority and fraternity, most of you will recognize and think about as we brand and market ourselves that we talk all the time about these pillars of Greek life. We talk and market ourselves around this idea of pillars, which ironically, I don't think any of our founders were thinking about pillars. I don't think that's what they were talking about. I think our women founders were thinking about things like, we should vote. What about civil rights? Let's try that one. Like, I think many of our founders were really looking at other things, but somehow we've become the pillar people, sororities and fraternities. And we do a lot of things well. When we think about that first pillar, this idea of leadership, sororities and fraternities are leading on campuses. We're really doing that thing well. And when we think about the next pillar, when you think about this idea of philanthropy and service, we are changing the world in many respects. People are building hospital wings in sororities. There are people who are putting hearing aids in people's ears. There are people serving people with disabilities and looking for a cure for arthritis. We are doing amazing work with this pillar. And we are doing hands-on work, and we're raising money, and we are changing the world in many, many respects as it relates to this. Not much of a problem. And when we think about this idea of scholarship, most of us are doing pretty good, minus a 0.08 guy. Like, most of us are doing well. We're going to class, we're taking the lead, we're getting good jobs, and we're taking advantage of the scholarship piece. And then the big one, brotherhood and sisterhood. This is the one that we all talk about. This is the one, like, this is like our thing. We are brothers and we are sisters. In all fairness, we kind of make fun of friendship. We're like, we're not friendship. Like, you can get that in the residence hall. We are brothers and we are sisters. Like, we make it a bigger thing than just friendship. So here's the inside scoop on all this for you sorority and fraternity folks. Chapters aren't getting closed because of philanthropy and philanthropy hours. Chapters aren't getting closed because of leadership, like you're not leading enough. Chapters aren't really getting closed about scholarship too much. Chapters aren't really getting closed because we're like, we don't see enough brotherhood and sisterhood. But when we start to think about why the world is watching us and why they are paying attention to us and why the police show up and why the conduct officers talk to us and why the headquarters call us, if we really start to think about these pillars, we're doing a lot of stuff right. But the reason they pay attention to us is over safety. And in all fairness, as men and women in sororities and fraternities, I think we all have to be cognizant to the idea, if we say that we are about brotherhood and sisterhood, if that is our foundation, if that is our pillar that we all believe in, this should be the safest place on American college campuses. This should be a safe place for new members, for men, for women, and for all members. So this is why people pay attention to us, because it is fascinating. It's fascinating when the headlines read about hazing, about alcohol, about drug use, about sexual assault, about race issues. When they read these things and it's associated with this idea of brotherhood and sisterhood, it's confusing. So when I think about what's the problem, I believe that safety is our biggest problem that we have right now, because this should be a safe place. So let's talk about this idea of safety. If you've ever taken a Psychology 101 class or read anything around psych theories, most of you will recognize this triangle here and remember a man named Abraham Maslow. He wrote about this idea in 1954 and continued throughout his whole life to talk about how do we get to self-actualization as a human. And this is a pretty normal thing that most of us have seen. But when I look at it and I try to intersect sorority and fraternity into it, it's a pretty fascinating way and a different lens to look through. Because the simple idea is we are all kind of searching right here for love and belonging. That's brotherhood, that's sisterhood. That's where we're trying to get to in the Maslow model is love and belonging. And we know that when our members love and belong, they stay and they're motivated and they're happy and they want to pay their dues and come to things because they feel connected to this thing. But the great irony of what Maslow teaches us is until they feel safe, they will never feel that love and belonging, because this is a human needs model and it kind of goes from bottom to top. So until we can get to brotherhood and sisterhood, the great irony of all this is people have to feel safe. They have to feel safe in their words and what they say and how they treat each other. They have to feel safe in the fact of we're not just going to say things anymore like, well, you don't have to do it, but if you do it, it would be really cool. No, it has to be a safe place where I get to choose what I want to do. They have to be safe in knowing that people will not harm them or hurt them. And so when we think about this idea of brotherhood and sisterhood, the great irony is we've got to create safe spaces before they will ever feel what brotherhood and sisterhood actually is. Now, I'll empathize with you for just a minute on this idea of safety and why is it hard and why is brotherhood and sisterhood so hard? And here's the simple answer. The male and female brain do not develop fully until 25. And if you're a man, I might say 35, but I'm just kidding. The research says the male and female brain do not develop fully until you are 25 years of age. So we throw you into these values-based organizations at a time when your brain is not fully developed, and we're just like, make good decisions, make healthy decisions, be good, and go forth and conquer. And it's a lot for a brain to kind of wrap its head around. We know from the research that back here, the risk area part of the brain, this is where the risk area is, it is fully developed at 18. So men and women step on American college campuses, the traditional age man and woman, and their risk area part is fully developed. If you don't know what that means, I call it the hell yeah part of the brain. This is the part of the brain when someone says something totally stupid, like you're sitting there, you're like, I have a test tomorrow, I have a test tomorrow, I have a test tomorrow, I have a test tomorrow. Somebody walks in like, do you want to go out and get drunk? You're like, hell yeah. I do. This is a great idea. I think this is a great idea. Like that's the part of the brain that is fully functioning. Now up here is called your prefrontal cortex. This is the part of the brain that deals with judgment and reason, that prioritizes, says this is not a good idea. This is a really bad idea. If we do this, they're going to take the charter off the wall. This is not a good idea. This is the part of the brain that's not fully developed. So it goes like this. I believe we come to chapter meeting almost every week with what I call the fake prefrontal cortex elected leaders. These are the men and women who are like, I'm gonna try to keep this charter on the wall. I'm gonna try to control these people. I'm gonna try. So they come to meetings, and our poor risk manager, you know these people, like they get up and they're like, okay, formal is this weekend, ladies, and because of what happened last weekend, we have decided that the theme is values-based formal. And everyone's like, what happened? What happened? You know, and they're like, shut up, you know. And if you remember last formal, there was the golf cart incident, and people were like, what happened? You're like, shut up. And so this poor risk manager who is in charge of people's safety stands up and gives this plan about values-based formal. And she's like, because of what happened last time, we're going to meet at the house before, and everyone has to come. It's mandatory fun, mandatory. And we're going to eat pizza together. And we have a graph chart of there's 4 restrooms for 400 people to get ready. It's going to be so fun. And we're all going to get ready and eat together. There will be no pre-gaming to the pre-game to the pre-game. And so we're going to hang out together, and then we are going to eat, and then our dates will come, and no problem, there's going to be hired security just to make sure everyone's okay because of what happened last time. People are like, what happened? And so then we're going to get on the bus, and if you, there's no water bottles this time because last time people did not put water in there. There was vodka. It was disturbing. And so what's going to happen is we're going to get on the bus. We're going to have water for you. We will have water, so don't like punch me out again. And so we're going to get on the bus and we're going to have jazz music. There's going to be no lyrics because of what happened last time. And then we're going to go, and there's going to be food provided. And then if you're over 21, you get a wristband. Please bring your ID and birth certificate because we don't trust you any longer. And we're going to then let you have 3 drinks, and then we're going to have some food. It's going to be really shitty. It's going to be great. And then we get on the bus, and we have decided to do Disney-themed music on the way home. We feel that is appropriate on the way home. And literally, she's presenting this, and people are like, what? And so we leave, and we have what we call the hell yeah unofficial elected officers. They're all in our chapters. Men have them and women have them. And these are the people, we leave that meeting, and that poor risk manager's like, I'm in charge of safety. And everyone else is like, everything she just said, ignore it. It's crap. don't listen to her. Here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna come to my apartment beforehand. You're gonna put your formal dress in a Ziploc bag. That's how small your outfits are, just kidding. All right, then you're gonna, sorry, and then you're gonna come and you're gonna, I'm your sister. I'm your sister, so I'm gonna give you Wonder Bread because it has been scientifically proven if you have Wonder Bread, it will slow down the absorption and you will biologically release all of this vodka throughout the night. And you're gonna get so intoxicated, you'll never remember anything. And it sounds ridiculous, but people are like, hell yeah. And then all of a sudden, we have men and women at an event that is dangerous, it is risky, and it starts to just look normal. And so we get to this event and all of a sudden somebody's in the corner, like, or in the bathroom, or somebody needs help. And what we tend to do as women and men, we're like, oh, that looks so bad. Like, oh, excuse me, like, that's so bad. And then we're like, wait a minute, aren't there sober monitors? Like, isn't there like somebody in charge here? So then all of a sudden we go look for some random sober monitor. We can't even remember, who's a sober monitor? And then the sober monitor's like, well, wait, we gotta go find the sober officer. And then all of a sudden 12 minutes go by and there's still our friend in the corner who simply needs our help. The brain makes this stuff challenging because that risk area is fully functioning. But I will also tell you that I have one simple charge from this conversation. Safety has got to be everyone's responsibility. It is not the job of the risk manager to keep people safe. It is impossible for that to happen. It is not the job of these sober monitors to monitor 200, 300, 400, 500 people. That's just not possible. And so what I challenge to you to do with this conversation is to simply start this dialogue within your chapter, this expectation that safety is everyone's responsibility. And if it is everyone's responsibility, we have to talk about what safety looks like. We have to talk about when someone tries to hand someone a fifth of alcohol because it's in the family and everyone's doing it. At some point, we just have to say, no, we're not. And we have to talk about this idea of safety as it relates to our social media posts and what we are saying about people. And I don't care if it's an Insta or a Finsta or a Minsta or whatever it is, like we have to make people in our organization feel safe through our words and through our actions. And we have to understand that when people are on the ground, just putting them on their side, that's not safe. You think you might be helping, but that is not safe. And we have to create an environment, a place where people have the expectation, I will call 911 if I deem so. I don't have to go find some officer in charge to do that. If you see someone who needs your help, you do the right thing regardless of the consequence. I challenge you to create this safety conversation with each and every one of your members and to put the burden of safety on every single person to look out for each other. Because in my opinion, that's what brotherhood and sisterhood is. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here.